What's happening, everybody? Today we're getting into some of the real stories shaping California, from some amazing tech popping up in our own communities to the big-time policy fights going down in Sacramento and all the way out in D.C. It's all about how we're building for what's next.
So that really makes you think, right? How do you build a stronger future? I mean, where do you even start when the challenges feel so huge?
Well, sometimes the answer is way closer than you think. Sometimes you just start with a classroom on wheels. Let's get into it.
All right, our first story takes us down to Kern County. They're doing something real different out there, bringing high-tech learning right to the people.
Now, this is not your average school bus. We are talking about a $1.2 million mobile classroom. That's a serious investment from the Kern Community College District, and it's all about completely changing the game for kids learning about science and tech in that area.
So what's inside this thing? Get this, it's a 53-foot trailer packed with 16 different VR stations. We're talking chairs that vibrate so you can feel what's happening, 360-degree visuals, and even fans to make you feel the wind. It's not just learning, it's an entire experience.
And here's why this matters so much. In Kern County, more students are failing intro to bio and chemistry than are passing them. That's a real problem. But check this out. Research from Arizona State shows that when you use this kind of VR tech, students are almost twice as likely to pull an A. It all comes down to that old saying, you can't be what you can't see. This bus is showing them a future they might never have even dreamed of.
And you can really feel the impact when you hear from people who've tried it. Assemblymember Jasmine Bain said, "I wish I had this growing up." And that's real talk. When you can actually see it instead of just reading it in a book, it just clicks.
And this whole thing is bigger than just one county. Dee Slade, the CEO of the African American Network of Kern County, she put it perfectly. She said, this is about making sure these students, our students, have a real seat at the table, not just here, but in the whole world. It's about opportunity, period.
So from that local fire, we're going to zoom out to the state capital, Sacramento. This is where Black leaders are on the front lines, pushing policy and fighting to build a more just future for all of us.
Now, leading that charge are two powerful voices. Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, who's the vice chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus, and Senator Akilah Weber Pearson, who's the chair. And they're focused on the big stuff, everything from justice reform and reparations to health equity.
And Assemblymember Bryan did not hold back when talking about one of his biggest legislative wins. He said for 100 years, incarcerated firefighters have been out there on the front lines making, and I'm using his words here, slave wages. His bill finally raised their pay up to the federal minimum wage. That's a huge deal.
And that was just one thing. Look at this list. He's also been behind bills to protect our elders from losing their homes, getting rid of wage caps for other incarcerated workers, and even easing up on parking fines for folks who are homeless. You see the pattern, right? This is about directly helping the people who are struggling the most.
At the same time, Senator Weber Pearson is leading this truly historic effort on reparations. She sees these new laws as laying the groundwork for what could be the first state agency in the entire country focused on addressing the legacy of American chattel slavery. You know, the system where our ancestors were treated like property. This is about justice and healing on a whole new level.
And if you're asking why this is so critical right now, well, the numbers don't lie. The senator points straight to the data. A massive wealth gap, where Black families only make 63 cents for every dollar a white family makes. A housing crisis, where we're about 7% of the population, but almost 25% of the homeless. And health issues, driven by where we live and what we can access. The data is clear. Inequality is the single biggest fight we're facing.
And those health issues that the senator mentioned, that brings us right to our last section, health. Because at the end of the day, all this work, the tech, the laws, the advocacy, it's all about making sure our people can live healthy, supported lives. And right now, a lot is on the line.
Let's start with mental health. Man, this quote from a medical resource, it hits home. It says, "In many Black families, we're taught to be strong and push through." We've all heard that, right? But the message here is so important. Our kids don't have to just tough it out. They don't have to struggle alone. Help is out there.
And Medi-Cal is providing a whole lot of that support for free. It covers therapy and meds for kids under 19, and you don't even need a referral to get them checked out. There are apps like Bright Life Kids for the little ones, Soluna for teens, and, of course, you can always call 988 if you're in a crisis. The resources are there.
Okay, now let's pull back and look at the whole country, because there's a huge deadline coming up. 20 million people, 20 million,
rely on subsidies from the Affordable Care Act just to have health insurance. And those subsidies, they're about to run out.
And to see just how real this is, just look at the area around D.C. In West Virginia, a crazy 98% of people on the ACA exchange get these subsidies. 98%. In Virginia, it's 87%. These aren't just numbers on a chart, y'all. These are millions of families who could see their insurance bills just explode overnight.
And what's happened in Washington? Well, it's a political fight, plain and simple. On one side, Democrats are pushing hard to extend the subsidies to protect those families. On the other side, President Trump has called the whole ACA a disaster and says he'd rather not extend them, with other Republicans calling them a boondoggle. The future for those 20 million people is literally hanging in the balance.
All right, so let's bring it all back home. We've gone from a high-tech bus in a small county all the way to a huge debate in the nation's capital. How does it all connect?
What we're really looking at are three things that have to work together: innovation that creates opportunity, advocacy that demands justice, and access that keeps us healthy and well. That classroom on wheels, the fight for fair pay in Sacramento, the battle over healthcare in D.C., it's all part of the same story.
And that story is still being written. The work is nowhere near finished. So that really just leaves us with one last question to chew on. What's the next chapter that you want to see written? What part are we going to play? Something to think about.